My name is Danielle, and this is Trying Matters. If you're looking for a no BS type podcast, this is it. I'm here to help make life fun and interesting and learn right alongside you how to be brave enough to go against the grain. Here, we'll be talking about real challenges and fears that are holding us women back from living our lives to the fullest. So let's shake things up a bit and actually start trying. So welcome to episode 14. I've had a lot of different ideas in my head about what this episode is going to be about. And almost every week, I truly don't know what I'm going to talk about because there's so many things that I want to talk about all the time. And you know, I've been doing this for a few episodes now. I feel like I'm in the groove of it. And we're 6 months into the year. So, we're going to kind of talk about that. Um mainly because this week and last week were two very different perspectives of mine from me. Yes, we're going to go with that. And I just find it interesting. So, as I was like reflecting on what I was going to talk about, I was thinking, it really is halfway through the year. And I set some goals at the beginning of this year that I haven't actually looked at just yet. I have them in a book. I wrote down goals and I asked my husband to write down goals for this year, just to kind of see what changes. And if we hit our goals or if we changed them halfway through or whatever it may be. So I need to do that. But um, so where this is all coming from, let me back up and like give you the context because if you listen to this podcast, I always talk about things that are going on in my life in real time, or I talk about things that are going on in real time in the lives of my friends, my sisters, women that I talk to on the regular, or just a conversation that I come into contact with on someone, anyone, whoever. So let's give the context. So last week, we had gotten back from New York and we were getting back into our routine and the swing of things. And I was excited to be back home and like get into my routine. I'm a person who absolutely loves routines. If that's you, snaps. Um, but when I get into my routines, sometimes I get into them like too hard. Let me paint you a picture. Going to work, coming home, sitting on the couch, getting up, going do my workout, making dinner, doing some laundry, hanging out with my husband while we sit on the couch and watch something and eat dinner, sitting on the couch for a long time, and then going to bed. That is the routine that usually happens. Me being the creature of habit that I am and the person who loves a routine, I frequently get like stuck in the rut of repetitive, what is the word I'm looking for? When you're like non-stimulating activity. So like just the mundane starts to drive me crazy. And I noticed this last week because I was coming home early because our caseload at work was just really low. And if you're not familiar with what I do, I'm a speech therapist in a hospital and my work is determined by the amount of patients we have. So, when we don't have a lot of patients, there's no work for me. Therefore, I get what's called flexed off. So, there's no work for me, I go home. Great when I want a break, but my routine very easily getting into the habit of a certain pattern or behavior, it was not good for me because now like I was coming home and like I would get on the couch, I would take a nap. And like nothing wrong with naps. I love a good nap. However, my naps went from, okay, I'm taking a 30-minute nap, no more, no less. Like that is my go to nap time. And I, one day last week, took a 3-hour nap. And I woke up and I was like, what have I done? One, I have ruined my sleep schedule. Two, oh my gosh, why did I just sleep for 3 hours? I had stuff that I needed to do. And then four, like, why am I so tired? Like, why was I able to do that? So that started like getting my brain going. And y'all know, if you've listened to this podcast, I talk about the downward spiral. I talk about like suffering with self-criticism and self-imposed pressure to be better, feeling out of control, all of those things. Like all those mindset things, like that's the stuff that like makes me think, it intrigues me, and then I also just feel like I suffer with all of that, which is why I talk about it, because I know there's at least one other woman who can relate to this. So I share. So that was kind of what was happening. And I was like, no. And the thing is like my logical brain, I was like, okay, clearly, like you slept. Maybe you really did need the rest. Maybe you're not getting good sleep at night. So I'm like, okay, I need to change that. So that's like change number one. Then I'm like, all right, you need to get better at your sleeping habits. And I was like, oh my gosh, I still have not like turned my eating around, and I'm not like giving my body the fuel that it needs, and I'm draining it by putting in all this like processed and like crappy food. So it's draining my energy or not giving me energy. So I'm like, all right, now I have to change how I eat. I have to change how I eat. I have to change how I sleep. Um, I keep like my to-do list is not getting any shorter. So I need to like start doing the stuff on my to-do list. So that's another thing I need to change. I need to stop taking naps, because that is like this pattern that I'm creating. And then like I sit at home and like I have no social interaction. And there is just something about social interaction and my personality. I need it. Even if I have social interaction all day long, I still need it when I come home. Like I'm okay with a little bit of a break for about an hour. And then I'm like, okay, I need stimulation. I need it. I need it. I need people. So I was like, I can't be sitting at home all the time. Like I need to get out. I need to go do things. I need to start making more of an effort to make friends or start new hobbies. And all of these things, there's the spiral that we talked about in a few episodes ago. And I was talking to my husband and I was like, I know that I jumped from like, oh my gosh, I took a really long nap, to I am unproductive, I am unhealthy, I am antisocial, and I'm doing nothing with my life. Like literally 0 to 100. That is what happened. And I was like, okay, stop. There's not always a reason, a one-to-one correlation in why we do things. But my problem-solving brain that I have was like, yes, there is. And I had to like logically tell myself, like, you are not unproductive. You are not just a slob, unhealthy, like person who is, not going anywhere in life. Like you're always trying to do something new. And maybe that's what's exhausted you. There's a thought as I'm actively thinking this, possibly. But I was like, instead of me doing this whole freak out and let's change everything at once, because in previous episodes, I've talked about that too, the 0 to 100, all or nothing behavior, like never ends well. So I was like, let me think about what I can do to actually help these concerns and these thoughts that I'm having. So this week, I went into it fresh and new. And what I realized also at this point, it was Sunday. And if you're listening to this in real time, we're at the beginning of June. And in my opinion, June is just the best month of the year. And if you can't figure out why I'm saying that, it's because it's my birthday month. Okay. All right. And it's halfway through the year. Like we've made it through halfway. Let's reassess where we're at. So not only is it my birthday month, it's my favorite month. It is halfway through the year, so we can reflect on what we've done for the whole first part of the year and how we want to make this rest of the year better. So we have this refresh, reboot mindset that we can go into it with. On top of that, it was a beginning of the week and a beginning of the month together, which is like in my little organized brain, I'm like, yes, fresh new beginnings, fresh new week, fresh new month, fresh new half of the year. Like, this is it. All right, we're rebooting. So this is where I'm at this point. So how am I going to reboot is what I was trying to figure out. And I was like, okay, I've been trying to do all of this on my own. What has led me to this point to feel and think all of these things? What has worked for me in the past? And what is logical, like tangible steps that I can take to help me get out of this rut and to jump back into what I'm aiming for here, what I want the direction of the rest of this year to kind of go in. So, because I've been feeling so defeated in my health goals, my sleep, I have been doing my workouts. That is something that, like, if y'all have heard me talk on this podcast, y'all know I love doing my at-home workouts. If you ever have any questions about that, let me know. But I have this routine and like that is set. But when it comes to my relationship with food, that's something that really has been tough on me for a long time. And I still have a pretty, I wouldn't say poor relationship, but it is a relationship with food that I need to work on. And if you are somebody who can relate to that, snaps. Like whether it is, you are somebody who doesn't want to eat because you're afraid of what it's going to do to your body, or like you're really strict on yourself and you have high standards, or you overeat, or whatever it is. Like, I think as women, we kind of all have some type of warped relationship when it comes to food. Um, but that's something that I constantly struggle with. So just being straight up with you guys, I like to be very real with y'all. So how can I, because I've had this issue for, like I said, for years now. And sometimes it takes you a while to get there, to finally make a decision of I'm fed up with this. I need to do something that is actually going to help me. So I'm actually going to say this now, and I'm going to take this as my accountability. And if y'all do not hear me or see me sharing about it in some capacity, if you follow me in my life or you are friends with me, hold me accountable, because I would do the same for you, because I want you to be living your best life. So please do it for me. I think I need to go to therapy again. And that was one of my first thoughts, is like, okay, I'm having all of these thoughts about, my health and what I want the trajectory of my life to go in from this point or in forward, onward. That's, I don't know. That was one of those. Okay. But I've been to therapy in the past, and I'm like, you know what? I've struggled so much with my relationship with food. I think instead of talking about it and saying that I'm going to go get help for it, I think I'm actually going to go pull the trigger on it. So like I said, hold me accountable if you know me and you know I haven't. This is my accountability check. So I'm throwing that out there. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go back to therapy and we're going to work on my relationship with food. But in the meantime, until I can really dive in on that, the workout program that I do at home, I have a coach who is a friend of mine from college. She's the one that got me into these workouts and the nutrition program that I follow and all of that kind of stuff. And in the past, she has been a really great resource for me, to help hold me accountable towards working toward my goals, whatever they may be, toward encouraging me to, be kinder to myself in the process of that, being a good example to look to when I'm struggling. And then also just like my cheerleader to help push me towards like the mindset piece of health and wellness. So I actually reached out to her this past week and was like, hey, or last week, I think, when it was all going down, and I was like, what spiral is happening? I texted her and I was like, look, I'm struggling and I want to be better with my nutrition because I have no energy. I'm taking these long naps. Like, I I don't want to do anything. And like, I keep quote unquote trying. And I'm going to put in quotes because y'all know, I mean, the whole podcast is called freaking Trying Matters, but, and trying does matter. You have to start putting forth effort towards something in order for you to even get it going. Okay. So it takes a while to get in that rhythm. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm doing this little like choo choo thing, but like you got to get it going before you can roll off of that momentum. I forget where I've heard that analogy, but I like it. So the trying, the reason why I put it in air quotes for I've been trying to be better with my food, I give in to my like, oh, but we don't feel like cooking, so let's just order out. Or, oh, we don't feel like or we don't have any sweet treats at the house, so we're going to DoorDash some. Like all of that, I know that that is my downfall and I say yes to it every time and then I get mad at myself because I'm like, "No, you had these goals and you want to feel better, you want that energy again." Like first off, let's not beat ourselves up about it because we're trying and that does matter. But I've given in to my, let's use quote unquote weakness here, um, every time. And it just becomes more frustrating. And like now I'm to the point where I'm like fed up with myself. I'm like, you are trying to do this on your own. It's not working. So this next half of the year, what can you do to try a little bit better? And in this case, I'm asking for help from somebody who I know is going to truly have my best interest and who's going to legitimately be that helping hand that I need in this case. She's going to hold me accountable. She's going to help me out in the areas that I don't feel strong in, like meal prepping or, you know, creativity with or keeping it simple when I'm overthinking it, like those types of things. But then she asked me what I needed and I straight up told her, I was like, I need somebody to give me positive energy because I feel like I'm doing this all by myself. A lot of times I feel like I'm in this little bubble of just me. And as a podcaster, that kind of it re-emphasizes like it's just me here in this microphone. What up, dog? So it it's really hard for me to get out of my bubble when I spend a lot of time alone. I do things like podcasting, I crave socialization. So like when I'm working towards goals like that, I'm like, well, I only have like my husband here and like love him, but he's not holding me accountable for my goals. And that's not necessarily his responsibility. Yes, it's helpful. And he does want to push me for me to be my best version of myself. And there are some times where he does do that, but not to the capacity that somebody like my coach can. So, how am I going to fix that situation in an appropriate way? I'm going back to what I know has worked. And I'm also going to actually stop saying that I'm going to do something and I'm going to hold myself to it. And I'm actually going to go back to therapy and I'm going to talk about this problem. So that's twofold on how I'm moving forward with that quote unquote issue that I'm experiencing. Um, Another thing, and y'all have heard me mention this so many times, and these two things kind of go hand in hand. So, like the whole health mindset, because honestly, it's not just like my eating, it's my sleeping. I love the idea of having a sleep routine, but I have FOMO so bad. Snaps, if that's you. Like me and my husband's schedule, you probably heard me talk about this if you've been on the podcast, but like we have weird schedules and they don't sync up. So like I'm like, I want every little bit of time that I could get with you. So if he wants to stay up late, I'm like, I want to freaking stay up late with you. Like I am still in the phase of being obsessed with him. I don't know if I'll ever stop being obsessed with him, but I also just have this scarcity mindset of like, if I don't get time with you now, when am I going to get time with you? And that just like, I'm like, no, no, no. I need all of you all the time right now, here, later, all the things. So like, I don't prioritize my sleep. And that's a problem for me because I don't do well when I don't have good sleep. And then like the feelings of not being productive and like doing my to-do list and like all of that piles in, okay? So like this is what's happened. This is my mound. And the thing that I want to do about it is yes, I do want to go back to therapy and talk about all of those things too in addition to my relationship with food. However, in the meantime, because I am such a problem solver, And because I love learning new things, and y'all have heard me mention this so many times, I got back into the Enneagram. Now, before I really get into it, personal development in general is very important. Every time I felt like I was out of sorts in my mind when I first was, on my health journey years ago, um, my coach, who I'm now, like reconnecting with and all that, should always say, how's your personal development? What are you reading right now? What are you listening to right now? How are you improving your mindset? And I have not been doing that at all. I have stopped reading to improve my mindset. I have not really done a deep dive prayer devotional, which is something that I like to do from time to time. I don't always do them because it's hard to find one that I really like, if I'm going to be completely honest. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, I would love to have this glorious morning routine and drink my coffee and do my prayer devotional. And I just don't get up in time for that. I need to, because it's something that I truly do want and crave, but I'm not there yet. We're working on it, trying. Okay. Um, so I'm not doing either of those things. And I stopped listening to podcasts about personal development, which sure is ironic because here I am hosting a podcast about, pretty much at the core of it, it's personal development for women. Like flat out, like straight up, just basic. It is personal development for women. You and I are going through the same things. Like we all experience the same bullshit. Like that's what this whole podcast is about. How am I supposed to be giving to you guys if I am like losing it in my own mind, Sure, it's relatable. And yeah, that's totally what I want this to be about. Like me and you hanging out, shooting the shit, drinking some espresso martinis or a glass of wine together at my house after work. Like that's what this is about. But at the same time, like once I started this, I was so focused on like, how am I going to get there? How am I going to get there? I want this to be big. I want it to be impactful. And I'm starting to like focus on the journey and like where I want to be and what are the steps that I'm going to take and all these things about like this timeline that I'm putting on myself. Because just to put y'all in on a little bit here, my idea is so fucking real with y'all. All 20 maybe people who listen to this, which everybody who's listening, I fucking love you because I hope you're getting something out of it. That's the whole point of this. But my whole point with this podcast is for it to be, first off, impactful and help a ton of women feel like they're not alone. And then second, like I want this to be a potential access point for another stream of income one day. Now, I don't want that right now because my main focus, like I said, at this point is like building it. I want to build a community with you guys who listen. I want to build connections with you guys. And I'm not quite there to like the point of how I want to execute that. And that scares the shit out of me because I want it. Like I want this whole experience with you guys. How I get there is what freaks me out and then overwhelms me. And like I see the big idea and what I want to do with this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna get there? I want to be there now. And if I'm trying to be on track to do this like before I have a kid and I want to have a kid, kinda, and like everything's starting to like pivot, and I'm like, what do I even want anymore? And how am I gonna get there? And all this. And then it's like, oh, hold up. So this leads me to I haven't been doing my personal development, and I decided to dive back in on it. And the way that I did that is what I know really freaking worked for me because it helped me understand myself so freaking much. And it's the Enneagram. Okay. So I'm going to briefly talk about this because one day I'm going to, learn enough about it to where I can actually give y'all some like real info. But currently, I am reading the Enneagram Guide to Waking Up, which I have referenced in the past in another episode. It's by Beatrice Chestnut, and I don't know how to say this person's name. Uranio Paes? I don't know. I just butchered that person's name, but if you're on YouTube, this is the book. This is it. And I love it because it goes through all 9 types. And just a little background on this, because like I've taken personality tests in the past, and like this, I guess, broadly would fall into that category, but like not exactly. It's so much more than that. And there's tests that you can take where you can determine what type you are, but all of the podcasts and digging that I've done, it all say like, no, you shouldn't do a test because there's a lot of behaviors which kind of mimic certain, like some of the same numbers, but what is the true determining factor of like what your number actually is your core motives and your core fears. There's virtues and vices and all that kind of stuff. So those tests are kind of tricky. But this book is a really great resource for that if you're trying to learn about yourself, which is where all of this episode is kind of going in the direction of. So when I started doing all of my spiraling, and when I realized, this is a point in the year, we're halfway through, I know what I want my goals to be. There's some that I still need to kind of sit down and figure out, like this podcast, for example. Um, I needed to understand more about myself. And I've done some digging on the Enneagram and like what number I am and like what that means and how I can use this, because it's really a tool. If you're looking for a really good podcast to listen to on the Enneagram, and if you're anything like me and you love to learn new things, like just be careful. You might deep dive face first into it because it is that interesting. Like I love figuring people out and like knowing what makes people tick and why they do the things they do and all of the intricacies of human beings and how the brain works and all of that. Like this is that. But the podcast that I listen to that has explained a lot in conjunction with this book, which she references Beatrice Chestnut a lot. Enneagram and Coffee with Sarah Jane Case. Great podcast. Great podcast. If you are at all interested and you want information on it, 10 out of 10, I recommend that. It has taught me so much about myself, as have this book has also taught me a lot about my personality. And the reason why I emphasize this so much is like other personality tests, like I'm type A, no, this digs into like I don't even know how to explain it, y'all. Like it's just, I've never had such a great description of who I am as a person until I discovered this. And with knowing, the things that motivate me, what I'm driven by, to like my core motivator, because I'm just going to let y'all know I'm a type 6. Specifically what I have discovered, I'm going to find it. I think I'm a social 6 is what I discovered about myself recently. Cause like I knew I was a 6. I took tests and stuff and almost all of them came back as 6s. I got a 3 one time, which also kind of makes sense. I'm not going to get into why, because again, I'm not an expert on this. One day I hope to be. But yes, I am a social 6. But I was reading this and I like started at the beginning and I was like, oh, the description for 1. Oh my gosh, is that me? And then I had to like, I dove face first into it. But it helped me realize why last week I was having such a problem with the nap and not getting the to-do list done and not, staying on top of my goals and what I truly want for myself and all of that. All of it made sense because this was like, your core motive is fear. You're afraid of being like unstable. And then that turns into like either going full throttle, which is leaning into like my unhealthy side of my personality and the traits that I have with this type of personality. And then, the good things that happen when I lean into like the better parts and like the healthier parts. And this helps me like kind of cope with it and then be a little gentler on myself. And then there's also another part of the Enneagram, excuse me, um, you have two numbers on either side of you, and you can lean into like the traits and the characteristics of the two numbers on the side of you. So you can use that as your tool when you feel like, when I feel myself being like super 6-ish, I can lean into my 7, where I need to be a little bit more go with the flow and find the fun and change it up and get out of my routine within like certain parameters of things. Or like I need to lean into like my 5, where I need to do my research to make me feel a little bit more comfortable. Or, the other aspects, I haven't really dug into 5 just yet. But super great tool, and it's helping me be, like I said, kinder to myself, and it's making me want to learn more about myself, and then to do things that support my personality and my needs and my goals, based off of like how I operate. So 10 out of 10, this is going to be like my key for helping me push through the struggles that I experience in this next half of 2024, 100%, in conjunction with, I'm going to say it again, I'm going to go back to therapy. So that's that. I'm trying to think of what else. There was something else that I feel like I wanted to say. Oh, the other part of this that I really thought about the other day too, at the beginning of this week. So Sunday came around, and every Sunday I try to go to mass with my husband, and we missed last week because we were coming back from New York. So that always usually like sets me a little funky off too. So the reason why I'm telling you guys that is there are some things that really just get us rooted back to feeling like we're grounded, feeling like we're not as spirally. For me, it is going back to the things that bring me joy and that ground me. Those things for me specifically are time with family, time with friends, spending time working on my relationship with God. Like those are the things that keep me grounded and bring me back down from, what is this spiral? Why am I freaking out? I want to do all these things. I have all these thoughts. It's just chaos in my brain. Those are the things that bring me back down. They bring me joy. So I'm always going to say, go back to that when you feel that spiral happening. And going into the second half of the year, that's the stuff that I want to focus on incorporating. That truly is one of my goals for myself, is to do and be around people who bring me joy. And I know what those things are. When I get comfortable and complacent with my routine and I get super set in it, I pull away from that stuff just because it's quote unquote easier for me to come home and do my thing. And like, I like my time by myself to an extent, but then by the end of the week, I feel like I'm missing something because I haven't prioritized those things that bring me joy. So going into the rest of this year, I'm going to prioritize to try and do at least one of those things that will get me out of my routine for an afternoon or a day. That way, I'm not completely throwing myself out of whack by getting way off of my routine, but I'm doing something to keep my social and my social aspect of my life that I like and the joys that I have incorporated so that I don't feel as funky. In addition to, I'm going to say it one more time. I'm going to go to therapy. And I'm going to keep on doing my personal development. And I'm going to keep on reaching out to the people that I know are supportive and helpful to me. Because sometimes, we go to the same people and they've done great. But sometimes you need somebody who's just a little bit further out of your immediate circle that you don't talk to every day or every other day or whatever. Like your best friend may be that person, but your best friend may not be that person. So it's important to, use those people who are going to truly help you and help keep you on the path of where you're trying to go, what you're trying to do. If you are in that same boat of like, oh, half a year, where's it gone? Oh my gosh. think of this half like June is here. Doesn't mean it's half over. It means we still got half left. Let's change that perspective and let's reboot going into this second half of the year and give it our all. And give it our all in the sense of doing what brings us joy, focusing on what keeps us healthy in this mind. That's important. So if you need help with that, let me know. I'm here. Going through it too, always. Hold me accountable. I'll hold you accountable because that's what friends are for. And I think that's it. That was episode 14. Let me know what you thought. Let me know if there are any topics or any ideas or issues that you're going through that you want to talk about. I keep saying that I think I'm going to pivot. As you can tell from this episode, I like to talk about things a lot before I actually do them. But I do think I want to start pivoting into like what is truly making me excited and learning new things. So we may be pivoting into educational topics. But I also am still debating on if I want to pivot to just interviews with some people who have done some scary things. So if you listen to this episode all the way and you have a preference on one of those, please let me know your thoughts on that. And let me know which one you would like to hear. Would you like to go more of the education route? Or would you like to go more of the, let's talk about like getting out of our own way and like doing the scary things to experience life to the fullest? What you thought? I don't know. Okay, that's it. I will talk to y'all next time. Mwah. I hope you're having a fabulous day, night, evening, whatever time it is when you're listening, wherever you are, in your car, on your walk, washing your clothes, eating ice cream, drinking wine, whatever it is. Love you, girl. Bye. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope you got a little inspiration to start taking steps towards whatever it is you've been wanting to try. If you love this episode, share it on socials and tag me. I'd love to hear how it helped you. And of course, we got to get the word out to the other women who are needing that little extra push like you and I do. Can't wait to talk to you soon.